That also describes profitability for the airline industry.
It sure does. And Willie Walsh is Director General of the International Air Transport Association, and he says global air traffic has bounced back to about 85% of 2019 levels as things pick up.
Employment levels remain quite high, and therefore I think people still have confidence in spending money. So it's quite different to situations we've seen in the past, where typically these concerns about a recession were also associated with higher and increasing levels of unemployment. And all of the CEOs I'm talking to in the industry remain cautiously optimistic about the outcome for this year.
Walsh commenting from the sidelines of the Bloomberg New Economy Gateway, Europe.
He also says supply chain problems could keep some planes grounded for longer than hoped.
And that's getting passengers very frustrated.
And Bloomberg's Tom Keene, Lisa Abramowitz, and Jonathan Farrow caught up with Michael O'Leary, CEO at Ryanair, on the sidelines of the Bloomberg New Economy Gateway Europe, and asked him about the struggle to get enough planes, runways, and air traffic control workers so the industry can really soar.
There is a frustration with travelers in the United States. When's the capacity coming back on so that we can get better airline fares and we can be a little bit more comfortable, Michael?
We plan to carry about 185 million passengers this year, which is up about 30% in our pre-COVID numbers. So as soon as we can get the aircraft from Boeing, we're flying them. But overall, short-haul capacity in Europe will still be down around 5 or 10% on pre-COVID capacity. Capacity is a challenge. I think capacity is going to continue to be challenging for the next 2, 3, 5 years.
I look where we are, and to me, sitting on the runways, it's about a limitation of airports, whether it's continental Europe or the United States, maybe even Asia. Are you waking up every morning saying to yourself, we've got to get the underlying infrastructure rebuilt for 2030?
No, well, I think the differential, Tom, between the U.S. market and in Europe. In Europe, there's many more airports available. There is a focus on 3 of the big hub airports, Heathrow, Paris, and Frankfurt, Main, which have never really worked that efficiently. Those hub and spoke airports, they're challenging. But there's lots of other airports, second city airports, and secondary airports at main cities, which is essentially where Ryanair flies to. The big challenge for us in Europe is air traffic control, which continues to be a mess. The French air traffic controllers going on their recreational striking 2-3 times a week. The French use minimum service legislation to protect the French domestic flights, and they cancel all the overflights.
Okay.
We've been calling repeatedly on the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, to do something to protect overflights. So we don't have any issue with the French going on strike, but if they're going to go on strike in France, cancel the French flights and leave the Spanish, the German, and the Italian flights alone.
As recreational striking takes up around Europe, and frankly, probably globally, I'm curious how much that jacks up salaries and allows people to absorb some of the price increases that you've put out there for Ryanair tickets. And we've seen pretty much across the board, it is getting more expensive, and people are paying it without even thinking. When does it become too much? Have you sort of tested the barriers of when people start pushing back?
Yeah, it feels almost like, I know what the 1920s were like after the Spanish flu or the First World War, but it's almost like people are determined to spend on travel in particular. I think that being locked up for 2 years with COVID has driven people back to the beaches of Europe. It is very difficult to get a restaurant reservation, a hotel, or a flight in Europe. Last year we saw fares rise by 14-15%. We think this summer, and I'm on record as saying we might get to double digits again, maybe 10% increase in airfares. But remember, this is the airline industry, and when things are going well, it means the next crisis is probably about 4 days away.
That was Michael O'Leary, CEO of Ryanair, with Bloomberg's Tom Keene, Lisa Abramowitz, and Jonathan Farrow.
And that is it for this edition of Bloomberg Best.
I'm Ed Baxter.
And I'm Denise Pellegrini.
And this is Bloomberg. Now stay with us. Top stories and global business headlines are coming up right now.
From the financial capital of the world, broadcasting across the globe, this is WBBR New York, Bloomberg 1130. Now a global news update.
The U.S. Embassy is warning American citizens in Sudan to shelter in place until further notice. Sudan's military says it has agreed to help evacuate citizens from other countries, including the United States, as fighting rages on between the army and a rival group in the capital city of Khartoum. An American is among at least 400 people killed so far. The Pentagon is ramping up forces in the region as the Biden administration weighs the possible evacuations of the U.S. Embassy. The Supreme Court is allowing a widely used abortion pill to remain on the market for now. The High Court rejected lower court restrictions that would have limited access to mifepristone. The case will continue before the Fifth Circuit Appeals Court in New Orleans next month. The pill was approved for use by the FDA in 2000. Advocacy groups have sued to ban the drug, claiming the Food and Drug Administration ignored safety risks. President Biden is expected to announce his bid for re-election soon. Brian Shook reports.
Aides for the president have told allies the announcement could come as early as next week, with Tuesday a likely date due to it being the 4-year anniversary of his 2020 announcement. Biden has always made it clear he plans to run for a second term, but has never given an official announcement. The oldest serving president in U.S. history, Biden would be 82 years old if he ran again and won. I'm Brian Shook.
A major sewage spill is closing many Los Angeles County beaches on this Earth Day. An estimated 250,000 gallons of sewage spilled into the LA River on Thursday due to an equipment malfunction. Sanitation crews have been working to clean up the mess, and health officials are monitoring water quality. Disney is canceling its television spin-off of the National Treasure franchise after one season. National Treasure: Edge of History was an expansion of the film about a girl searching for answers about her family history who looks to recover a lost treasure. I'm Julie Ryan.